Hello, everyone. Welcome to my 2020 NFL post-free agency mock draft, where we're going to be talking about the first round of the 2020 NFL draft. I'm going to be talking to you about potential trades, places for trades to happen. There won't be any physical trades in the mock draft, but I'll definitely try and keep you guys informed about places where trades could happen. This is what I think is going to happen, or what I think could happen based on what happened in free agency. So let's get started. After free agency, the Cincinnati Bengals, they paid some money. They got DJ Reader, Trey Waynes, placed the franchise tag on AJ Green, and then picked up Von Bell and Kenzie Alexander. So their biggest hole is quarterback, and I think that's the direction they're going to go. So with no further ado, the Cincinnati Bengals are number one. They're going to go get Joe Burrow as their quarterback of the future. There's really not a lot to explain here. He completely had a dominant season, perhaps the best season from a college football player of all time. He completely tore up Oklahoma as well as Clemson in the national championship game, and really proved he's an NFL-ready quarterback by putting on a show. So I think it's easy here to say Joe Burrow, number one, to the Cincinnati Bengals. So with the Washington Redskins here, picking number two, this is kind of a place where a trade could happen. It's more likely that it would happen at 3 with Detroit, but it's possible that a team wanting a quarterback, perhaps Tua Tagovailoa, would move up to number 2 or 3 to get their quarterback in the future. However, here I see Washington staying home and basically taking the best player available. And the best player available here is Chase Young out of Ohio State. He is probably the best non-quarterback in the draft. He is a huge skill set, rushing the passer. He's a really, really, really great football player. It doesn't really fill the O-line or cornerback issues that the Redskins have had. But on a bad football team, and especially at a high draft pick, a strategy is to take the best player available. And Chase Young is by far the best player available, and he is by far worth it. So Chase Young, number 2 to the Washington Redskins. Now to number 3 with the Detroit Lions. It's very possible, as I said earlier, that a trade could happen here. This seems more of the logical spot for a team like the Miami Dolphins, or maybe even the Chargers at 6, to trade up to 3 to go get Tua Tagovailoa or another quarterback that they like better, that they don't feel like would fall. However, if the Lions were to stay home here at number 3, the main thing that comes up is, by trading away Darius Slay to the Eagles, they have a huge hole at cornerback. Yes, I know they got Desmond Trufant. However, he's a few years past his prime back in Atlanta. So I think the pick here would be to go out and get Jeff Okudah from Ohio State, the lockdown corner, number 1 corner in the draft this year, to really shore up their defense, get their Darius Slay replacement, and give a very big defensive weapon for Matt Patricia to utilize. On to the 4th pick with the New York Giants on the clock now. Their biggest gap is their O-line. They need to really protect Daniel Jones, and they need to open up running room for Saquon Barkley. So that's why I see them going for an offensive tackle or offensive lineman here. Another option is possibly they could trade out of here. There are, I'd say, probably top 4 offensive linemen in the draft class, being Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas, Mekhi Becton, and Tristan Wirfs. Those 4 guys are very good football players, very solid football players. The Giants could easily move back a few slots and still pick up a guy that they'd like, while getting back some draft capital. On another option here, I know there's been some speculation that they're really into Isaiah Simmons. The one thing keeping Isaiah Simmons away from them, I think, here at 4, is that they spent a lot of money on linebackers in free agency. They got Kyler Fackrell on a 1-year, $4.6 million deal. They got Blake Martinez to a big $30 million contract, and they also picked up David Mayo. So I think their focus on linebacker takes Isaiah Simmons out of the conversation. I know Isaiah Simmons can be more than a linebacker, as he showed at Clemson last year. He can play in coverage as a safety, or just as an all-around great defensive player. He's an absolute defensive weapon. However, I think the Giants really need to protect Daniel Jones here, and they need to really shore up their gap at the offensive tackle position. So I think Jedrick Wills is the perfect guy here. Here's why. I think he has the best mix of a high ceiling as well as NFL-ready talent to slot in right there at tackle and be the backbone to that offensive line to help the Giants with their offensive line woes. So I see Jedrick Wills going here, number 4 to the New York Giants. On to the Dolphins at 5. I just want to say they did a really excellent job in free agency, getting the guys that they wanted, and spending decent money on it. With Coach Brian Flores down there in South Beach, he definitely looked at his old Patriots guys in Kyle Van Noy and Roberts, as well as getting Ted Karras from the Patriots too. But they made some really good moves on defense, making draft worries of getting a corner, as well as an edge rusher, not really a priority anymore, as they signed Byron Jones to a big deal, and Shaq Lawson and Emmanuel Ogbah as the main edge rushers there. The main thing for the Dolphins, outside of obviously being their need for a quarterback with aging Ryan Fitzpatrick as the starter, is the offensive line. And maybe they go offensive line here, but I think here they need to go grab their franchise quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. However, at number 5, I think Tua Tagovailoa will not be there. I think another team that wants him would have traded up by now. So I think if the Dolphins want to go get Tua, they should go and trade up maybe to a team like the Lions, as I said earlier, and go get that deal done. However, why Tua? Why not Herbert here at 5? So Tua could possibly, if he had stayed healthy, he could have rivaled Burrow for the number 1 pick. So I think a talent like that you can't pass up if you're the Miami Dolphins. You've invested heavily in free agency, and you need a quarterback that has a lot of potential. He has potential to grow. He has a high ceiling. We've already seen his dominant performances in the past at Alabama. So I think that Tua Tagovailoa, I wouldn't worry too much about the injury, as his reports and records have come back pretty clean. We've seen just a few days ago, a tape came out of him throwing the football, getting a few reps, and he looked good. He looked healthy. He looked fine. So I wouldn't worry too much about Tua not being healthy. So I think Tua is the surefire pick for the Dolphins here. On to the Chargers here at 6. I think they did a good job in free agency getting Brian Bulaga, as well as trading for Trey Turner to shore up their O-line. Yes, they still have a problem at O-line, but I think they can address that later on. So I think they go out and get Justin Herbert here at 6. I don't think they need to trade up to leapfrog the Dolphins to get him, or maybe they want a Tua. I don't think they need to invest that draft capital. I think they can sit there at 6 and allow Herbert to fall to them if they're happy with him. If they want to, they should jump the Dolphins. But I think Herbert fits their system. I think he can take over for Tyrod Taylor, maybe not week 1, but later in the season. And I think he could be a good fit in LA. He's a big quarterback. He's got a nice arm. He showed some good leadership. I know there's a few concerns around him, but I think he's a really good player. He's a good leader. And I think he could be a good franchise quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers. On to the Carolina Panthers at number 7. So obviously they need a corner after losing James Bradbury, but I don't think a guy maybe like C.J. Henderson, who's probably the second best corner in the draft, is good value here. Another big problem that they've had in the past, especially last year, is their defensive line. And the issues surrounding that. Last year, they were not a good run defense, and with both of their starting defensive tackles leaving in free agency, I think defensive tackle is a huge need for the Carolina Panthers. So that's why I see them going with Derrick Brown here. Derrick Brown is the best defensive tackle in this class out of Auburn. He is probably a top 3 non-quarterback in this draft as well. He's big. He has a good skill set. He can really stop the run, which is one of the Panthers' woes last year, something that really held them behind. And with this defense, I think Derek Brown would fit in nicely. I think he'd be a good addition for them, and I think he could be a plug in the middle of that defensive line that would help them stop the run. On to the Cardinals here at number 8. Before free agency, I would have given them a wide receiver here. But after a DeAndre Hopkins trade that I don't think anyone saw coming, I think O-line is really a big concern and need for them. I think they really want to protect Kyler Murray. They want to open up their offense. So I think the perfect guy to do that is Tristan Wirfs. I think Wirfs, like Wills, has a lot of potential, as well as has that right mix of being NFL ready. So I think Tristan Wirfs is a great addition for the Cardinals. He's a guy to put on the opposite side of DJ Humphries that they just re-signed to a big contract, and have really 2 solid offensive tackles to man that O-line. With the Jags sitting at number 9, I think you can only look at recent draft history here, and you know that they love to double up or to go get defensive players in spots that maybe they don't necessarily need them. However, after losing Calais Campbell and A.J. Bouye through trades, I think they want to focus on their defense. So I think the perfect guy here is Isaiah Simmons. As I said before, he can play all over the field as a linebacker, as a safety. He is a defensive magician. So I think he fits into the Jags scheme of liking defensive players. And although it doesn't maybe fill the Jags corner need or D-line need, it does help the Jags focus on defense. So I think Isaiah Simmons to the Jags here at number 9 is a really good pick for them. At number 10 is the Cleveland Browns. Two of their big free agent signings were Jack Conklin and Austin Hooper. Both the big deals. And I still think even after signing Jack Conklin, offensive line should be a priority for them. They want to allow Baker Mayfield time in the pocket to find his all-pro targets, now I guess in Austin Hooper, as well as Jarvis Landry and OBJ. So I think an offensive tackle here is the move. So who do they go for? I think they go for Mekhi Becton out of Louisville. He's a big guy. He's all the measurables. He's a big frame, and he can really get the job done. He is a little bit raw talent-wise, but his physical size is what makes up for it. And I think with a little coaching, he could be a really good pick for the Browns. He's really a boomer bust guy, but I think here at number 10, the Browns can afford that. They can afford to get a guy with a really high ceiling. Although he's not really might be the most NFL ready offensive tackle in the draft, I think he's worth the risk here. And the risk is high here. As I said, he's not. I don't think he's ready. He really uses his size more than his ability. If you look at his tape, but I think if he can be coached up, maybe refined, I think he could be a really great offensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns in the years to come. So here at number 11 with the New York Jets, their biggest needs are edge rusher, offensive tackle, and wide receiver. I don't see them going edge rusher as the value here, and picking a guy like maybe A.J. Epinesa or K'Lavon Chasen. I don't think they're worth this pick. But maybe the Jets, if they see that as their biggest concern, they could follow that. So that leaves offensive tackle and wide receiver. I really wanted to give them CeeDee Lamb here because they really lack a player that can go up and get the ball, who could really help out Sam Darnold. I know they signed Brashad Perriman for agency, but that's more of a replacement for Robbie Anderson. So I think they go to offensive tackle, and I think the perfect guy to do that would be Andrew Thomas. He's got a good physical as well as technical skill set from Georgia, and I think he's a really solid player that can be a day one starter for the New York Jets. On to number 12 of the Las Vegas Raiders. Still sounds weird to say Las Vegas, but they were another good team that did well in free agency. The big headline moves were getting Corey Little in, maybe Marcus Mariota as well. But they really shored up their defense. They also got Nick Kwiatkowski, as well as Malik Collins and Eli Apple. So they really strengthened their defense. However, one of their big concerns is definitely on the offensive side of the football, with their lack of a true number one wide receiver. Tyrell Williams did pretty well last year, as well as they did sign Nelson Aguilar, but they're missing that number one receiver that can go up and get the ball, which is why I want to give them CeeDee Lamb here. CeeDee Lamb, as long as with Jerry Jeudy, they're kind of neck and neck for that number one spot. I think there have been reports that the media have been a little bit higher on Jeudy, which is why I think Jeudy is soaring up those mock drafts. But I think CeeDee Lamb is that player that the Raiders are really coveting here. They really want a guy, as I said, who can go up and get the ball, help out whoever is going to be the quarterback there, if it's Mariota or Derek Carr, and really just help the Raiders make plays here. So I think number 12, CeeDee Lamb to the Raiders. After a trade with the Indianapolis Colts for DeForest Buckner, the 49ers are sitting here at number 13. And I really wanted to give them a defensive tackle just to replace DeForest Buckner. And a possible defensive tackle could be Javon Kinlaw, who in the real draft I don't think would fall this far. I think he'd probably be taken by 13. But their other big concerns are wide receiver. They're after losing Emmanuel Sanders, they really need another wide receiver. So after CeeDee Lamb is gone, I think the next best wide receiver is Jerry Jeudy here, and I think that's who they're going to take. I think him and Jimmy Garoppolo could be great teammates. I think Judy's a really good route runner, and he could really add another level to that 49ers offense. So Jeudy here, 13 to the Niners. On to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here, sitting at number 14. They signed Tom Brady in free agency, and I think because they signed Tom Brady, they're in win-now mode, meaning they're going to look to protect him or give him weapons in the draft. So what are some options here? They don't need a wide receiver, and their two big concerns here are O-line and running back. I think an O-line, an off-the-line player here probably would be Josh Jones. However, I think it's a little bit of a reach, a little bit high for him. And another player here at the running back position would be DeAndre Swift, who I project them taking. I think DeAndre Swift is the most complete back for the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers have been really struggling with their run game. They haven't had a really great runner since Doug Martin. So they know the importance of having a good running back, and I think DeAndre Swift is the most complete back. He catches the ball out of the backfield, he can run the ball downfield, and you've seen how Brady can excel with running backs around him. We've seen with LeGarrette Blount in the past, as well as James White, and I think DeAndre Swift gives him a mix of being able to run downhill as well as to catch the ball in the backfield and really take the top off the defense to allow Brady those deeper throws to his skilled receivers and tight end in Evans, Godwin, and Howard. So I think DeAndre Swift really completes this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense here at 14. To the Denver Broncos here at 15. I think their biggest need here is wide receiver, which is why I think they will go and get a wide receiver. So there are a few options. I think Henry Ruggs, T. Higgins, or Justin Jefferson are the best ones available. And I think Henry Ruggs is the best one out of those three. I could see the Eagles try and get Henry Ruggs, which means they'd have to leapfrog the Broncos here, because I think Ruggs really fits the Eagles system. But here, as there are no trades, I see the Broncos going and getting Ruggs. He's quick, he's fast, he really allows the Broncos offense to stretch the field. And I think he could be a really good tool for Drew Lock. Drew Lock has a great arm, as he showed in college and a little bit last year too. And I think those deep throws to Ruggs could really open up that Broncos offense, now especially that they have Melvin Gordon too. So I think Ruggs here to the Broncos at 15 is a great pick. On to the Atlanta Falcons here at number 16. After free agency, I don't see their need for an edge rusher anymore. I know a lot of mock drafts before free agency were giving them a guy like A.J. Epinesa or Clavon Chason, a guy who could get around the edge and sack quarterback. But they picked up Dante Fowler on a big 3-year, $48 million deal. So that's no longer a need for them. So I think the next biggest need for them is a corner, which is why I see them getting C.J. Henderson here, who's probably the second best corner in the draft after a really good combine and dominant performances for Florida last year. He's physical, he's really good at man-to-man coverage, and I think he'd be a really good fit for the Falcons here at 16. Now to the Dallas Cowboys here at number 17. A lot of the talk about them in free agency was about re-signing Amari Cooper and re-signing Dak Prescott, or placing the franchise tag on Dak Prescott, rather. So I think now, with it all said and done, they still have a big gap at edge rusher. And I think the perfect guy for them here is A.J. Epinesa. It might be a little bit high for him, just because he did not have a great combine. He did not run a good 40. He only, I think, did 17 reps on the bench press. And for his size, that's not exactly what teams are looking for. But if you look at his tape, he's powerful. He's relentless. He gets to the quarterback. And although his combine was not on par with what you might see on tape, I still think he's a good pick here for the Cowboys at 17, who fill their hole at edge rusher with A.J. Epinesa. Now to the Miami Dolphins' second pick in the draft at 18 here. So after getting Tua, their franchise quarterback, hopefully for the future, they're really looking to protect him here, which is why I see the Dolphins here going for an offensive lineman, especially an offensive tackle here, as that was something that they didn't really go for in free agency. So I see them getting Josh Jones here at number 18. Jones is another big offensive tackle from Houston, where he was absolutely dominant. He was really a solid player there for Houston. The one knock on him is he didn't play against maybe the best opposition, as well as occasionally his footwork is not where it needs to be. But he's pretty good as a blocker. So I think the Dolphins here at 18 to protect their franchise quarterback in Tua go for Josh Jones, offensive tackle out of Houston. Now that the Raiders have picked up their future number one wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb, they can focus on their next pressing matter, being their need for a really good corner, which is why I see them going and getting Christian Fulton. Christian Fulton really attacks the ball well, as well as especially his great short area quickness. That's possibly why he could be a really good slot corner at the next level in the NFL. Obviously, his championship pedigree playing for LSU, and I think he's just someone that the Raiders would really like to fit into their defense. So Christian Fulton here at 19 to the Raiders. With Jacksonville Jaguars sitting here at number 20, their big needs are probably a corner as well as a defensive line player, or maybe even offensive line player. Here at 20, I've already projected Christian Fulton and as well as C.J. Henderson to be gone. So I think if they had wanted one of those corners, I don't think they really have a shot at Jeff Okudah. But if they had wanted one of those corners, they would probably have had to trade up to get them. So I think they stick with a D-line here, and I think they go and get Javon Kinlaw. Do I think Javon Kinlaw will be there at 20? No. So I think they'll have to trade up for him, but I didn't really find another spot for him, so I stuck him here to the Jags. He has great physical abilities. He's a big guy, and he's really played a lot better, even as a pass rusher coming up the middle. So I think he could really be a force to be reckoned with for the Jags here at 20. And I think he's a steal here at 22. So great value pick, Javon Kinlaw, number 20 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sitting here at number 21 are the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm pretty sure it's pretty well documented that the Eagles really need a wide receiver, which is why I suggested them going and getting a guy like Henry Ruggs, leapfrogging the Broncos to do so. But another option is they sit here at number 21 and wait for a guy to fall to them. Perhaps T. Higgins could be that guy. He's a big, tall, athletic receiver. He's a big red zone threat. He can go up and get the ball. But a few knocks on him is his lack of speed. He's not going to run away from corners. But I think that big frame that he has could really help out Carson Wentz in the Eagles' offense, especially in the red zone. So I see him as a good fit to the Eagles here at number 21. With a pick that the Vikings landed in the Stephon Diggs trade here at number 22, wide receiver is definitely a priority for them. However, I think they can address that a few picks later with their second first-round selection. So that leaves them with a big hole at corner that I think they should fill. And I think the perfect guy to do that is the next best corner in the draft here in Trayvon Diggs, actually who's Stephon Diggs' brother. He's a good size for a corner, and he has really good ball skills, which I think translates from him being a wide receiver in high school. The one downside to him is he can sometimes be a little bit handsy, which could relate to a lot of flags at the next level in the NFL. But if he can tone back the aggressiveness with his hands and allow his technique to shine through, he could be a really solid corner for the Minnesota Vikings in the years to come. On to number 23 here with the New England Patriots. After Tom Brady leaving, you could possibly make the argument that Jordan Love would be a good fit here. And that quarterback of the future, he could sit behind whoever's going to be starting. However, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Jordan Love is the right move for the Patriots here. I think they want to let Jarrett Stidham perhaps be the next quarterback there. So with that said, I think their next biggest need is tight end, as well as a linebacker / edge rusher, someone in there. I don't think a tight end here is good value, where a linebacker / edge rusher is the better move, especially if you're losing Kyle Van Noy, who's kind of a linebacker do-it-all for the Patriots, as well as they lost Jamie Collins. So I think the right move for them here, someone who can rush the quarterback. And that's why I have them getting K'Lavon Chaisson from LSU. He's a solid rusher. He can get to the quarterback, and he can be a real difference maker for a Patriots defense that really needs some fusion of talent after losing a lot of guys in free agency. On to the Saints here at number 24. I think they are another team that did really well in free agency, covering up some holes at safety that they had with Malcolm Jenkins, as well as wide receiver by pick up Emmanuel Sanders. So I'm going to go the cornerback route. I think that's a hole they have, and I think that's something that they can fill with a guy like A.J. Terrell. I know A.J. Terrell did not have the best game against LSU. He got absolutely lit up by Joe Burrow and company. But other than that, he showed some pretty good discipline during his college career, as well as he was pretty solid in man-to-man coverage, especially press coverage. I think Terrell is a solid corner. One downside with him is that sometimes he can panic in coverage, and that allows him to grab onto receivers, which could lead to some penalties. But if he tightens up his game, works hard, I think he could be a really solid corner for the Saints. After trading away Stephon Diggs to the Bills, the Vikings are in the market for a wide receiver. And I think they should take the next best wide receiver in this draft, which in my opinion is Justin Jefferson. If you watched any college football last year, you saw Justin Jefferson, as well as Joe Burrow, absolutely tear up the competition, especially against Oklahoma, and as well as against Clemson in the national championship game. He's a big receiver. He has great hands. He basically catches everything. He loves to get physical with the opposition. And I think he'd just be a really solid receiver to take the place of Stephon Diggs. On to the Miami Dolphins here at number 26, their third and final first-round draft pick. If they were to trade up, I could see this pick in another team's hands. However, now that they've addressed the offensive side of the football, getting an offensive tackle for Tua, as well as picking up Tua, they should turn the ball over to the defensive side. They addressed the defensive line, as well as linebackers in free agency, as well as the corner by buying a big contract in Byron Jones. But, however, one thing they didn't address was their lack of safeties. Currently, they're planning to play Eric Rowe and Bobby McCain at the safety, who are both naturally corners. So I think getting a first-round safety here could be a really good move for the Dolphins. So there are two safeties that they could go after, one being Xavier McKinney and the other being Grant Delpit. I think Grant Delpit has a slightly higher ceiling. He's super athletic, and before the season, in an early mock draft, you could have seen him in a top 5 pick. He's a great football player, and I think he could really fill the shoes that Rashad Jones's departure leaves in Miami. Additionally, with Delpit, people have concern over his inability to tackle at times, which he showed during his college career. However, I think if he tweaks it up, works at it a little bit, becomes a little bit more physical maybe, he can be undoubtedly still a top safety prospect in this draft, and I don't think there will be too many problems there for the Dolphins to go up and get him at 20. On to 27 here with the Seahawks. As of now, Jadeveon Clowney has not signed with a team yet in free agency, but it makes sense for him to re-sign with the Seahawks. It's a good fit for him. He played there last season. That's just what all the signs are pointing to. So with that said, I see the Seahawks filling another void at offensive line by getting Austin Jackson from USC. He's really athletic, and he looks comfortable in the pocket. So I think he could help the Seahawks offense by protecting Russell Wilson up there in Seattle. On to number 28 here with the Baltimore Ravens. In free agency, through trade, they were able to acquire Michael Brockers and Calais Campbell, as well as they placed the franchise tag on Matt Judon. All of those players are really going to help their defense against the run. As we know, they got absolutely torn up by Derrick Henry and the Titans in that playoff game. So I think that's what they're going to look towards. They're going to really look towards to being able to stop the run. So a spot they need help with on the defensive side of the football is definitely a linebacker. And the perfect guy to do that would be Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. He's really good against the run, and I think that's really what the Ravens want in their linebackers and in their defensive players to really be able to stop the run. So I think this is a good pick for the Ravens system here at number 28. Now to the Tennessee Titans at number 29. So in free agency, the big thing with the Titans is they lost Jack Conklin, who really helped protect Ryan Tannehill last year, as well as opened the running game up for Derrick Henry. So at 29, I want to give them an offensive tackle to replace him. However, I don't really think there's an offensive tackle around that's first-round worthy. If they really want an offensive tackle, they might be able to move up a few picks, maybe to get Austin Jackson or maybe Josh Jones. But here at 29, another one of their problems is definitely the edge rusher. So I think a perfect guy to be able to slot in there at edge rusher would be Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State. He has all the measurables. He's a really big guy. He's super athletic. The only knock on him is that at Penn State, he was a little bit inconsistent at times. So if he can work on that consistency, become more consistent, and produce on a regular basis, he could be a really good player for the Tennessee Titans. If Jadeveon Clowney doesn't end up re-signing with the Seattle Seahawks, I could see Gross-Matos as a replacement for Clowney there in Seattle. So if the Titans wanted Gross-Matos, they might also have to trade up to get him, especially if Clowney doesn't end up re-signing with the Seahawks. Here at number 30, there's really no doubt that the Packers are in the market for a receiver to pair alongside Devontae Adams, as well as Devin Funchess, who they got in free agency. So out of the receivers left, there's probably four that could, maybe five even, that could go here, being Laviska Shenault, Brandon Ayuk, Denzel Mims, or Jalen Reagor and KJ Hamler. I think the latter two, as well as Denzel Mims, they might be a little bit of a reach. So it really puts it down to Laviska Shenault and Brandon Ayuk. I think the Packers here would go with Ayuk. Shenault, coming off injury, might not be the same dynamic player, and I think Ayuk is a really good player who fits the Packers' wants at receiver. He's quick. He ran a 4.5, and he's a lot of upside. And he would allow for Aaron Rodgers to really have another option there in Green Bay and help out that Green Bay air attack. On to number 31 with the 49ers, second pick of the first round. I see this kind of as a luxury pick here. After picking number 13 overall, using the Colts selection, I don't really think the 49ers are actually going to keep this pick in the real draft, but if they do, I think they could fill a need here at corner. They could go up and get Jeff Gladney, who's probably the next best corner in the draft. He's physical, he's tough, he plays bigger than his size would make you seem, and he sees the play really well. He's good instincts. He might need to have a little bit better ball skills. I think he dropped a few interceptions that he could have had last year and previously in his college career. But as a luxury pick, I think Gladney would be a really good fit for the 49ers defense. On to pick 32 here with the Chiefs. I guess another sort of luxury pick here, maybe a team that has an early pick in the second round wanting to trade up quickly and get their guy, as well as perhaps, get that fifth-year option. But if the Chiefs do intend to stay here, they have two needs, being corner as well as a linebacker. If they go the route of corner, they could go and look for a guy like Noah Igbenogany, which I'm probably pronouncing incorrect. But if they decided to go with a linebacker, I think Patrick Queen could be a better option. I think Patrick Queen is a better player. He's a little bit more valuable. He's athletic. He's good in both pass and run coverage, and I think he just fits that Chiefs defense really well. So I think Patrick Queen, number 32 to the Chiefs. So now that the draft is over, just looking over it, I don't think Xavier McKinney would fall out of the first round. I think he'd probably be taken, as well as Javon Kinlaw. I don't think he'd fall all the way to the Jags at 20. Those are both possible scenarios. It's unlikely. Additionally, I think those last few selections, a team looking for a quarterback, perhaps Jordan Love, a team could go up and trade for that quarterback that they're interested in. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like the video, and comment your thoughts on who I projected your favorite team taking. Thank you.